Hi, my name is Joel Groat, and I've got chapter 21 in the book, Sharing the Good News with Mormons. The focus of my chapter is helping a Mormon come to a personal conviction, a personal awareness of his sin. And really the premise for the chapter is this: if there is no true deep conviction of sin, there will be no true repentance. And if there is no true repentance, a person remains every bit as lost as they ever were. The other thing that the chapter really kind of focuses and encourages is trying to have a redemptive relational conversation with the Mormon. So really, with this chapter, you don't even have to address Mormonism per se. And I'll start out the conversation when I can with the question to a Mormon: do you believe that commandment keeping is important? And if you know anything about Mormonism, then you know commandment keeping is core, it's integral to the system. Commandment keeping is what allows a Mormon to have his good standing with God, to be able to feel the Spirit. The problem is, many Mormon people don't realize how many of the commandments they break and how much their sin separates them from God and how much sin they have on their account. So at some point as we're talking about commandment keeping, I want to get to the question where I'll ask them if they've ever taken the sum of their sins. If they agree that sin is what separates them from God, do they know how much sin there is there? And then it's just a matter of, when they say no, they never have, working them through kind of a really quick math problem where you take, and I just usually start at age 5, and I'll say, hey, the age of accountability is 8 with Mormonism, but my kids started sinning way before 8. So starting at age 5, if you just sin 4 times per day, 5 days per week, we'll give you nights and weekends free, that's 20 sins per week. 50 weeks per year with 2 weeks of vacation thrown in from sin gives you 1,000 sins per year. And I'll do that 4 sins per day from ages 5 to 9, 8 sins per day for ages 10 to 14, and then 16 sins per day from ages like 15 to 19. And if you do that math, it adds up to like 35,000 sins. And then the question I want to ask because at that point you can have a lot of fun with this. It's so much fun because you're sharing your own stuff, talking about your own kids, things you struggle with. But when you get to that point of those 35,000 sins that they agree that we all have on our account easily, my next question is, so how many of those have you confessed? How many of those do you even remember to confess? How many of those are still on your ledger before a holy God? And what is it you have to do to get that ledger wiped clean? So the chapter can be a lot of fun. There's a lot of joking around, but it also gets to the heart of our sin, and it brings a Mormon to an awareness of his personal sin, which Mormonism tends to create 2 types of people. People who are very light and superficial about their sin because it's the only way they can feel good about themselves, and so they have to ignore it. And Mormons who actually have come to see how sinful they are, how the fact that they are falling short, that they're really not doing everything they could possibly do. And those are Mormons who at times are very depressed, they're under so much pressure, they're likely just to give up everything. So this offers hope. It offers a way to relate, and the other thing that I focus on is just remembering that a Mormon is a person first, and they're a Mormon second. And so even if Mormonism crumbles, if as a person they aren't rightly related to God, they still are a lost Mormon. And an ex-Mormon who hasn't repented is still a lost ex-Mormon. So we want to bring people to this important awareness of sin, and my chapter simply gives you a way to work through it. It gives you Bible verses that talk about the great transfer, the idea that the way we get rid of our sin is it all goes on Jesus and his righteousness comes on us. So the pressure's off, and the other thing that it really helps a Mormon see and understand is then the good works that they do, the commandment keeping they do, it's not based on earning God's approval or favor. They have the delight of God as an adopted child once they have the righteousness of Christ. And then they're free at that point to simply do the good works, to enjoy the favor of God, love him and love their fellow man, and enter into deep, authentic relationships both with God and with one another that isn't possible unless they have their sin issue taken care of and cleared away. So thanks. Encourage you to get the book, Sharing Good News with Mormons. And if you want a very simple, straightforward approach that helps people with this idea of conviction of sin, Chapter 1 I hope will be a great practical help for you to do that.